Good afternoon, everybody. Kim Navik, Southern Nest Realty. Just wanted to do a little video in the event that you are not able to attend on Thursday and kind of talk about some of the things getting ready to be big changes for real estate agents starting August 1st. The biggest thing is about buyer agency, and South Carolina has done this little form here talking about the three methods that you can get paid. One, the buyer pays it; two, the seller pays it through the brokerage, or a combination of the two. And all of these forms will be sent to you in an attachment. And if you didn't get them, let me know. Send me your email and I'll get it out to you. The other interesting thing with South Carolina now is that it is required, if you are a listing agent and you reject an offer with no counter, you must send an offer of rejection. So, and you're signing it. It's not even your seller signing it. So just keep that in mind. That is a required form now as well. If your seller rejects an offer without a counter, you must complete this form. The other interesting things is talking about the compensation forms. You'll have one for North Carolina and one for South Carolina. The other thing to take into consideration is we are also being told that any buyer agencies that you currently have, you must have them fill out a new one with the new date and information on it. So even if they're in play, maybe under contract, you need to go ahead and have them sign, and you go and fill it out, they sign it, but both for North and South Carolina. So make sure that you are doing that. The compensation agreement here, I'm going to tell you, if you're listing, go ahead and have the conversation in advance with your sellers about, well, you don't want to say no one's going to come see your house. You need to say to them, for us to ensure the absolute maximum number of people through your door, it is in your best interest to offer compensation. And that compensation can be however you see it. It can be a flat amount. It can be a percentage. Somebody may try to negotiate more, but at least right off the bat, if an agent calls you, you are able to provide them the compensation sheet, whether it's for North or South Carolina. The other thing with Southern Nest that I'm going to do is I've created a tab on our website, and I will advertise each of those listings without an IDX link, which will keep us safe, stating that 123 Main Street is offering 2% or 2.5% or 3%, whatever that compensation is. So, and if it's nothing, I'm going to put that on there as well. So an agent could technically go to our website, click on that link. The same holds true for the consumer. They can go on my website and take a look at our listings and go, oh, look, you know, the listing at 1872 Nation Ford is offering 2.5% commission. I want to go look at that house. And that is the other thing is, and I think we need to create some type of document if we have a buyer that says, absolutely, I do not want to see any homes that the seller is not compensating. We have to let them, it has to be their decision. If we tell them, no, they're not compensating, and they say, I don't want to see it, then you're covered. But if it's, oh, I really wanted to see that house, but you wouldn't show it to me because they weren't offering compensation, even though you know your buyer may not be able to offer you compensation, can't do it. So make sure that you take a look at these forms, and it talks about closing at the property. The other thing that I don't like about the way it's worded is it's basically saying once you have them under contract, if the buyer breaches the contract, they owe you the money. And that may scare some buyers from wanting to sign a buyer agency contract. So all of these are highlighted in yellow that you'll get via email showing the changes. And it's basically, highlighting things like, don't say you work for free. You don't work for free. If somebody asks you how you get compensated, you need to explain it to them. I have never said I work for free. I've always said, I've always said I got compensated through the transaction at the close. That until we got there, I was basically not, collecting any money. And I don't know about you, but I've had some buyers that I've worked with for years before I've closed a deal. The compensation, this is the sheet with the biggest amount of changes, and it really talks about your compensation. You have to check a box basically saying what your brokerage fee is that you're expecting, whether that's a flat amount, a percentage, and how it's being calculated. You're only going to select one, A, B, or C. And then when you get to the second one, it's about that. The fee is strictly coming from the buyer. The fee is coming from the buyer and potentially the seller, or strictly saying that they have no obligation to pay you. I don't know who's selecting option C, but it's there. It's also giving you the option of doing a retainer fee and an administrative fee, and how those administrative fees and retainer fees are going to be applied. I would say if that is something that you are considering, let's sit down and talk about it. And I would suggest shying away from it, tread lightly. As things evolve, that might change, but as it's situated now, that would be concerning to me. When we get down to page number 4 of that agency, it talks about amendment. So we'll just say, if you agreed to, you're going to take 2%. And the seller is paying 2.5%. You have to amend your buyer agency, and all the parties have to initial. So don't bring me a commission check for 2.5% if your buyer agency says 2%. If that happens, I'm going to have to send it back to you to make the corrections. So don't delay yourself. If someone's offering you more money, just get it initialed. Make the changes. North Carolina actually has a specific form for you to fill out, but South Carolina says an amendment, but doesn't have a form. Listing agreement is another thing that's in here. It does talk about sharing the compensation to the brokerage. So we'll just say if you were listing for 3% and you're going to offer 2% or 2.5% to a buyer's agent, you're going to make sure that you put the full amount down on that listing agreement. Because on the next page, just like before, it's going to give you a place to break it down. There's also a place to initial that the owner knows that you're offering compensation to the buyer's agent and has to agree to it. And then there's also a box saying that they're allowing you to advertise the concessions. So in order for me to put on our website that we're offering buyer agency compensation, they will need to check that box. The other thing that I'm going to order for everyone, if you want one, is riders for signs, basically saying that either I'm going to label them as buyer agent friendly or buyer agent compensation offered. So if someone's driving by, they can see that that particular seller is agreeable to work with a buyer's agent. Let's see here. Then when we get to item 14, page 4 of 5, it again talks about that compensation. And the fact, and again, going over that it cannot be linked to anything related to the MLS. So please don't upload a compensation form to Canopy. Do not upload it to Showing Time. But you can email this to any agent that calls you. And then on the page 5 of 5 on that listing, it talks about the amendment, that any changes have to be, signed and initialed. Buy and sell, the South Carolina contract, we have on page 2 of Form 310, it talks about if they're getting a concession. So we'll just say that the seller is offering no compensation, but you've requested $10,000 in closing costs. Right down here is where you're going to put if any of that money is going towards your buyer's agent compensation, because everybody has to sign off on it. I know it's really redundant. It seems a little bit ridiculous. This one, I don't really think anybody's ever collected any money on. This talks about home warranty and if you were getting a kickback. So if you are getting a kickback from a home warranty company that you use on Form 390, the only compensation to be included with the contract would be on Form 390 in the relations to home warranty is giving me $100 and everybody has to sign off on that. I don't know when anybody got any money for those, but apparently somebody did at some point. Again, in the contract goes over compensation again, and so make sure that you read the highlighted yellow paragraphs. It's also talking about that amendment where if you're getting a kickback on 390, you've got to put it there as an attachment. So that kind of covers South Carolina. I know that was a lot in a short amount of time. I think what I'm going to do is do 2 videos so that this isn't extremely long. I'm going to do North Carolina on the next one.